are the underlying systems supporting our health and wellness, and residential property developers are adapting to meet the growing demand from this approach from increasingly informed and aware consumers. Whether in a new build or a renovation, sustainable and wellness-enhancing features like natural light, energy and water efficiency, healthy materials, automation, connection to nature and more are a high priority for consumers and property developers alike. While certifications such as LEED, WELL and Passive House help enforce the highest of standards. After all, what's more comfortable than the peace of mind of knowing that you and your family are living in a space designed with your health and wellness in mind? John Opperman is the Executive Director of the Earth Day initiative, which mobilizes 1 billion people in 193 countries. His interest in the earth extended to his work as a real estate broker and consultant specializing in green homes right here in New York. Let's speak with him now about how property developers are placing an increased emphasis on comfort, air, energy, nature, light and community in their work to meet the growing demands of consumers for health and more eco-responsible homes. Hello John, thank you for meeting me here. It is New York City and it is such a beautiful day.
Well, thank you for having me at a beautiful location.
So you work on sustainable homes. Would you please describe how you got involved in this?
We connect people to a lot of different things that they can do in their own lifestyle, to green their lifestyle, to make a positive, sustainable impact. Through my work at Earth Day Initiative, we have a green buildings publication that talks about trends and developments in green buildings. And the more that I worked on that publication, the more I realized that there's really a disconnect between the green building industry and the general public. So people hear green building and they honestly have no idea what that means. They think, oh, there's solar panels on the roof, or maybe there's a green roof. And yes, that might be one of the things that goes into making a building more sustainable, but it's honestly only one of maybe like 1,000 things that could make that building more sustainable, healthier. You could have better air quality, better light quality, less exposure to toxic materials, better energy efficiency, all of these different things that go into making a home more sustainable and healthier for you and your family. So then I started working with some colleagues around building out a real estate brokerage practice and consulting firm to connect people to all of these amazing homes that are out there that they just honestly don't know exist.
So John, what defines a green building?
So there are quite a few definitions of green buildings and sustainable homes and healthy homes, and we have a few that we could take a look at as we walk.
Let's go.
So this is one good example of a sustainable building that will achieve LEED certification once it's finally done. One example that you can see from the outside that could be part of that green design is the great exposure to natural light that you get. So there are green certifications like LEED where you get credit for giving people exposure to natural light. So a certain percentage of the indoor space needs to have exposure to natural light.
Yes.
It's taking into account that natural light is good for you. Exposure to sunlight is good for you. Nature views is also good for you. There are studies that show that just views of nature are good for your mental health and your general well-being. So that's one thing that can go into green, healthier homes.
Wonderful, because we really like the curvature of the windows.
Beautiful. And what I also like with buildings like this is it does show the diversity of buildings that are built to a more sustainable standard. Sometimes people think a sustainable building is going to be this sort of boxy, throw some solar panels on the roof, they all look the same, kind of this like prefab construction that people are used to seeing. If they think of sustainable home, that's sort of the past. This is something that actually shows the great diversity of buildings that could be built to a more sustainable standard, like this one is, taking into account all kinds of different factors like health and wellness, energy efficiency, non-toxic materials, things like that.
So how do you define a green or sustainable home, and what do you look for in the construction?
There are a lot of different things that can go into making a building sustainable, and there are a lot of different definitions of sustainable. It doesn't necessarily have to be a certification or a standard. Usually it's a good rule of thumb to sort of trust that, oh, this is a building that has gone through some sort of rigorous process to become more sustainable. So LEED, for instance, uses a credit system that you get credits for different things that you put into the building in terms of material sourcing, practices, performance, energy efficiency measures, things like that. Passive House really focuses in specifically on creating an airtight seal so that you control the environment really carefully, and then implementing ventilation systems that passively heat and cool the air as it enters and leaves the building. In some cases, are reducing energy usage by up to 90%. So you are not only creating this energy efficient space, but you're also really controlling the indoor environment, which is a good side effect of having good indoor air quality, which is healthier for your family. Then there's the WELL certification, which is more explicitly focused on health and wellness. So you get credits for different things that implement a healthier and safer environment in the home. And then there's a lot of sort of sustainable facets that bleed over into that. But it's more explicitly focused on health and wellness, which in our current day and age, that's become increasingly popular.
John, it was a fantastic tour today here in New York. Let's get into more details.
So the more I dug into it, the more folks in the green building industry I talked to, they kind of agreed that there's really been a lack of communication to the general public about the benefits of sustainable and healthy homes.
Since the pandemic, did you see like a real, increased demand since then?
Health is very top of mind since COVID. People are really concerned about air quality in a way that they never have been. The silver lining to that is that has opened up a lot of conversations about the health of our built environment. So there's a bigger conversation around airflow, filtration systems, fresh air intake. So how is that impacting our health? People are increasingly aware of things like sick building syndrome, when you really trap pollutants in buildings so that you're exposed to it on a regular basis. And that's what's happened as we've made our homes more and more airtight without proper ventilation. So health and wellness is really top of mind for a lot of people in the real estate market. And that's really a lesson that we've learned from other sustainable industries too, with sustainable food being really the first wave of sustainability, sustainable fashion or hygiene products being the next one. And what I hope is that real estate could be the next one that people are talking about and really asking those questions about. One demographic that we think a lot about is, for instance, young parents. So young parents that think so much about how can I create the best environment for my child to grow up. Maybe you're obsessing about organic food and non-toxic toys and the clothing that's made out of organic materials, but they don't think about the fact that their child might be crawling around on floors that contain formaldehyde or eating off of countertops that contain formaldehyde.
Do you see the shift in sustainability originating from the New York City government?
When it comes to our built environment, it's obviously a bit of push and pull. So a city like New York might have more ambitious regulation around climate change and sustainability than another place because the population cares about it. It's a pretty progressive place where people care about climate change. They want to address it. They want to see robust climate action. And then the city responds to that, and then it's top down. So people are now responding to the regulation that does exist, and they're realizing, oh, we really need to get up to this code. There's this impending deadline of us implementing energy efficiency measures to get up to code. We're going to get hit by fines if we don't get up to code. So a lot of people across the country are used to letter grades on restaurants, and now the same thing is happening in buildings. So if you purchase in a building that is super energy inefficient, you're going to have to pay for that at some point, either in fines or getting it up to code through retrofits. And the hope is that that conversation will really drive supply. So developers and the folks in real estate will actually respond to that and say, there's a market for this. There's a market for more energy efficient homes. There's a market for healthier homes. In general, we should move in that direction across all segments, not just the high end, but really across all segments, because that's something that people will want more and more going forward.
So how does affordability play into the conversation of sustainable homes?
I do think that the affordability conversation as it intersects with sustainability is a fraught one, because historically a lot of more sustainable options have been associated with higher prices. So as the market expands and the technology improves, a lot of the costs associated with building a high performance building or more sustainable building are coming down. And it's not something that's just of concern for the super wealthy. These practices are being implemented in all kinds of projects, from high-end luxury real estate to affordable housing. So a lot of cities, for instance, are interested in more sustainable homes because it diminishes their operating costs. The options do exist wherever you live, and the built environment is a large part of your own environmental footprint and your own impact on your health and wellness.
Rick Freduzzi is the executive chairman of the International Well Building Institute and was the founding chair and CEO of the US Green Building Council. These two institutions created, manage, and administer the most globally recognized and used standard today, WELL and LEED, for built environments that are sustainable and foster health and wellness. Would you please explain how both LEED and WELL cater to the residential home buyer?
Essentially, what both of them are two independent and separate rating tools for real estate, from residential to office buildings, interiors, industrial processes. All of the real estate we know can, in fact, be enhanced. And be enhanced in a way that it's better for human beings. LEED is a rating tool that was developed by the US Green Building Council. It's actually an acronym for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And what LEED is a tool that actually looks at real estate through the lens of planetary health. So you're looking at things that are related to energy and water and waste, materials, toxins, how the planet can be enhanced by building a building that is more in tune with what the planet needs. WELL is a rating system developed by the International Well Building Institute. A very strong focus on the areas of human health. So along with the ideas of energy, water, and waste and what that's doing to the planet, it looks at water from the standpoint of how clean it is and how healthy it is for the human being that's drinking it. It looks at air quality from the same lens, understanding how clean the air is, how humid the air is, what toxins may be hiding within the air. It looks at acoustics. It looks at nutrition, fitness, a variety of wellness attributes that allows the human being in that particular building to have a really good sense that they're being either respected and taken care of or not. You cannot take the human being out of the environment. And ultimately, I think it provides a very solid end result for not only the people that are a part of those buildings in every conceivable way, but the future we have in front of us. And it's a very interesting future that's ahead for all of us.
Fantastic. What trends are you seeing in the residential demand regarding sustainability? How much distance do you think we have to go with embracing both LEED and WELL principles and certifications?
We have two almost unthinkable crises in front of us right now. On the sustainability side, we have the issue of climate change, horrific storms, global migrations, things that we haven't even thought of happening before. There's a connection between climate change and the increase of viruses and crop failures. And the sustainability agenda is something now that has gone from nice to do that absolutely must do. And understanding the intricacies of biophilia and understanding how that affects us as humans, all of these things are coming together now based on global climate change finally getting to a place where people can no longer ignore it, even if they want to. And ultimately, we start moving towards a much healthier end solution for all of us.
To what degree do you see momentum coming from buyers in demanding internal environments that are sustainable and promote well-being, especially since the pandemic?
People are paying more attention to climate and to health and wellness than at any other time in their lives. And this increased awareness is leading people to doing really big things with their investments, their ability to buy houses, to lease office space, to lease apartments. The people that are the decision makers they're finding that it's easier to market these products, these houses and apartments and buildings. They're leasing much faster than they ever did before. So it's a business opportunity. I think it's absolutely appropriate for an organization to claim that they're a capitalist and an environmentalist. And if we incentivize these organizations to understand they can become more successful as a result of their investments, I think we've made a very, very good decision, because that means the market is paying attention. People are paying attention. People are deciding, I want my family to live in a healthy home. I want to put my employees in a healthy building. People that aren't paying attention to the signs of what's important these days related to climate and related to human health they have their heads in the sand. And we can't live like that anymore. It's a dramatic tipping point right now for all of us. We can no longer forget the most important things to reducing our carbon from our atmosphere, creating jobs and economies around green and clean technologies, understanding circular economies and how that will benefit all of us in a very short period of time if we all engage in those practices.
Elegant, with authentic materials from inside out. That's the promise Vereland makes to high-end residential clients who commission their goods. Company founders Tom and Sabine Vereland have always focused on sustainability and circularity in producing their upholstered furnishings using responsibly sourced lumber, recycled metal coils and packaging materials, plant-based foam cushions, and more. The pandemic only served to strengthen that commitment as they rose to meet each challenge. Tell us about the global supply constraint and how it affected your work, and what are the silver linings? What did you learn from that, and what innovation practices will you take from that?
It started, of course, with fabrics. Fabrics which are 70% sourced out of Europe. COVID took a larger toll initially in Europe, so plants and mills were shut down for a longer period or way before we did in the US. So we had a tremendous amount of back orders. For example, you need inspectors to inspect all the yarns. The inspectors decided not to come back to their old jobs. They couldn't find sewers because the sewers decided not to come back because they were moms and some of the kids were still not back in school, so they couldn't hire, they couldn't sew. One of the main lumber suppliers to our industry, not just to us, they had a massive fire, so they were shut down for 3 weeks, so we couldn't get some of our Baltic birch. So that was an issue. What we've learned is the silver lining is, business got through the roof. People decided to stay home, as we all know in our industry. Entertaining happened at home. Our industry is shot through the roof. Business is 3 to 4-fold what it was prior to the pandemic. So we're doing a massive expansion on the plants. We're doing another 40,000 square foot expansion. We're getting more machinery in. We are bringing as much as we can in-house from finishing, so we don't have to rely on a finisher. we're gonna start making our own cushions so we don't have to rely on them. So just bring it as close as you can. Number one, for the footprints, but number two, because you need to rely on yourself as much as you can.
And the trucking's an issue also. Even if they leave our facility, they are gathered into these massive warehouses that, they're just there for weeks and sometimes months at a time because they don't have the trucking.
We looked at actually getting our own trucking because you have such a backlog of orders and you can't really consolidate. But to buy tractor trailers right now, it's a 2-year wait. So you can't do that either. So it's like, it's whack-a-mole. Today it's this problem, tomorrow it's that. And it keeps it interesting.
How do you use sustainability in your branding and marketing? How has the company grown since you intentionally did?
As an entrepreneur, it's beyond exciting to create a product, right? But you gotta market it, you gotta sell it, you gotta deliver it, and you gotta collect on it so you can pay the bills and hopefully put a few points to the bottom line, which makes it sustainable because you want to be around tomorrow. So it's very important that you create a product that's going to be not just that fast fashion. We want something that's going to be around for generations to come. We're creating pretty much for all the different generations, and some people want to see it a little bit higher, some people want to be a little bit lower, some are a little bit more deeper like the Europeans, some of it a little bit more American depth, which would be maybe 39 inches or less. So we're trying to cater to all those markets, but still have an awesome, well-made, stunning, sexy product.
While we've seen tremendous progress in recent years, there is still much to be done. In terms of educating consumers and professionals, further developing benchmarks like LEED, WELL, and Passive House certifications, and innovating healthier, safer materials to use in our homes. Thanks to increased education and demand from consumers and an enhanced focus from property developers, the homes of the future will be built on a foundation of health and wellness to protect the people dwelling within and the environment beyond. Until next time, I am Laurence Carr, designing a more circular future.